Welcome to the #1 source for information, news, and opinion on your Columbus Blue Jackets. This is CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. You can also find the audio version on the CBJ Radio SoundCloud page, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now here's your host, Bob McElligott.
Welcome to another CBJin30 presented by Telhio Credit Union. A week has gone by since I was last with you, and what a week that it has been. There is actual hockey news to talk about, as earlier this week, the NHL announced its return to play plan, meaning that as it stands right now, I can't tell you when, I can't tell you where, but I can tell you there will be Stanley Cup playoffs. Indeed, there will be. That's the plan that was unveiled earlier this week by the NHL commissioner. And part of the process of that was getting the Players Union to agree to this plan. And David Savard, Blue Jackets defenseman and NHLPA rep for the Blue Jackets, he's the guy that goes to all the meetings. He attends all the meetings online, on the phone, however you got to do it. He's the guy that does it. He deals with it all. And he's going to join me in just a few moments to tell me about the entire process that he and his teammates and the other players in the league went through to approve this return-to-play plan. But first, I want to tell you about Telhio Credit Union, because having your money in the right place and getting the most out of it is very important, especially now. Everybody's watching their money like crazy right now. Do you have yours in the right place? Are you getting the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak? Well, you can find out just by going to Telhio Credit Union's website at telhio.org. Surf around, find out what they offer, find out what they might have that you don't already have, and find out if it's a better fit for you. They would love to have you as part of their team at Telhio Credit Union. If you can't find the information you're looking for to answer those questions yourself, you can either call them, or there's a live chat option on the right-hand side of the screen. Go ahead and click on that, and somebody will help you navigate your way through it. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in Central and Southwestern Ohio. They are federally insured by NCUA. Before I bring David Savard on, I just want to tell you about this entire return to play plan for the league. Again, when are they going to go back to play? Nobody knows that yet. Where are they going to play? 10 cities are still in the running to be a hub city. The NHL is going to select 2 of those cities. Columbus is still on the list as being one of the cities that the NHL is looking at, and perhaps there could be 12 teams here in a couple of weeks getting ready to start this version of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But that one, we don't know the answer to that yet as to whether or not that is going to be the case. But here are the particulars. The regular season is over. It has come to an end. As a matter of fact, yesterday the league announced the awards for, the top goal scorers and top goaltenders, all that stuff. The regular season is over as it stands right now. Now, phase 1 is what the league is in right now. Phase 2 will be players being able to resume activities at training facilities, and that's something that they are moving toward, waiting for government approval from the different cities around the NHL, and, just waiting for a lot of things, waiting for the proper time. There's a lot of players that have to come back from Europe. They are waiting for the word when the league's ready to move to phase 2. It'll be phase 2, skating in small groups, getting back together. And then phase 3, of course, will be training camp. But phase 2 is expected to hit in early June, when the teams can start going back to the facilities and conditioning once again. Phase 3 is not going to be earlier than the first half of July, so says the league. And that's when the training camps will begin. And then phase 4, of course, will be the actual return to play. Now, some other particulars about this. The format's going to be 24 teams, okay? And this is something we've speculated for a long time, going beyond the 16 teams that normally are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there are 24 teams. The top 4 seeds in each conference will get a bye, and they'll play their own little round-robin tournament to specify seeding when the actual Stanley Cup playoffs begin. So the top 4 seeds all are, for all intents and purposes, they're in, they're playing each other for better positioning when the real stuff begins. For everybody else, the real stuff is right away. A play-in round, best of 3, 5 against 12, 6 against 11, 7 against 10, 8 against 9, and best of 5 to see who will continue on to move into the round of 16. So the top 4 teams are going to play that round robin tournament, as I said, and how that's going to determine the seeding for them in the playoffs is unknown right now. The Boston Bruins are sitting on top of the Eastern Conference. Will they still be there after the round robin? We'll wait and see how that's all determined. But we do know that the Blue Jackets are going to be playing the Toronto Maple Leafs in round 1. That is, or in the play-in round. I'm sorry, the play-in round. They will be playing the Leafs in a best of 5, which I think is a pretty good matchup for the Blue Jackets. And I'll get into that with David Savard just a little bit later. So that's the plan. 24 teams. There will be 2 hubs eventually, one for the East, one for the West. Come back. 8 teams will play that best of 5 play-in series. The other 4 teams will do a round robin. And then once teams have been eliminated, it looks like they'll reseed and then go from there into a regular 16-team format. Now, there's also some question as to whether rounds 1 and 2 are going to be best of 7 or best of 5. That one could go either way. They got to work through that. The draft is another thing. It was determined that phase 1 of the draft is going to take place on June the 26th. There'll be 3 draws for the first 3 rounds. And let me put it to you this way. There are the 7 teams that aren't going to be in this postseason tournament. Those 7 teams are, they've got the best chance of winning the lottery, right? And you've got Detroit and Ottawa who have the best chances. Ottawa maybe the best overall because they've got their own first-round pick, and they have San Jose's first-round pick. So they've got 2 cracks at it. So they've got a great opportunity, as do the other 6 teams. However, there are going to be placeholders put in for the teams that lose in the play-in round. So let me kind of get through all of that for you. Let's say the Blue Jackets play the Maple Leafs and they lose. Well, it's possible that they could still be in the hunt for the first overall pick. But I'll tell you how that could happen. First of all, on June 26th, they're going to do 3 picks for the first 3 rounds. Now, if one of those 7 teams comes up in each of those picks, the 7 that aren't playing in this tournament, if one of them comes up in every one of those picks, it's over. Those will be the first 3, and then it'll seed after the play-in round is over. But let's just say they do it, and all 3 of those spots come up by they're one of the placeholders. They're not Detroit or Ottawa or Buffalo or New Jersey or L.A., Anaheim, San Jose. If it's not any of those, then there will be a phase 2 of the draft, which will be after the play-in round and before the actual Stanley Cup playoffs start. So it's strange. So the Blue Jackets, if it were that scenario and all 3 of those spots were open, let's just say all 3 are open, it makes it much simpler, and the Blue Jackets lost to the Leafs, then they would come out and they would have a chance to be in the lottery for the first overall pick. So it's a little bit convoluted. It's kind of crazy, and you got to put some thought into it, but that's how it's going to work. So you can go study it. And I'm sure we'll talk about it ad nauseum between now and June the 26th when they have the first round, or the first phase, of the draft. So all of that was announced this week. So that's a lot of stuff, right? And the National Hockey League, quite honestly, baseball is fighting amongst themselves as far as, the players don't want their salaries cut. The owners say they need the salaries cut. They are not on the same page right now. The NBA, I know they're putting things together behind the scenes, but it was the National Hockey League that was the first to step up and actually put out a plan to return to play. It was great collaboration between the owners and the players themselves. David Savard is not only a great Blue Jackets defenseman, but he is the player representative to the NHL Players Association for the Blue Jackets. And David Savard has been going through all of this much more than any of us know, but we're about to find out, as I'm going to bring David in here and talk about kind of the behind the scenes of what he went through and his teammates went through in approving the return to play plan. Well, David, earlier this week, or actually over the weekend, it was announced that the NHL has a return to play plan. Commissioner Gary Bettman went over it in great detail earlier this week. And, you're the union rep for the Blue Jackets. This had to be approved by the union. Just the return to play plan had to be approved. What is your role in this? I know they had the return to play committee that involves some other players in the league. What are you doing in the way of dealing with them and then dealing with your teammates after you get the information from them? Take me behind the scenes a little bit, if you would.
I mean, we basically, the way we work as our team, me, Seth Jones, and Nick Foligno are really involved in pretty much every call. So we'll be all three on basically every call. Then after we'll relate all the information to our team, and even when we always ask if guys wants to jump in and be on those calls and know what's going on. And that's basically what happened last week. I think we had half the team on the call, and everybody's informed of what's going on. And I know sometimes younger guys don't ask many questions. That's why we kind of put it out there that if they want to get on the call, so they can just listen in and stuff. And after, basically, we'll get back to the team group chat and kind of see if anybody has something on their mind that they don't agree with and stuff like this. And if we need to, we'll have a conversation and make sure we're all on the same page. And most of the times, I think they trust what older guys are. I think we've been around for a little bit now, and I think we always have conversations after we relate to the team. And I think most of the times we have a good feel of what our team wants. And like I said, I think if anybody has something else to say, we always listen, and we'll have conversation and we'll figure it out as a team.
So you talked about being in the group chat with everybody and getting feedback, but before you put in your vote representing the Blue Jackets in the yay or nay of returning to play, did you have a team vote, or do you just kind of get the consensus from that group chat?
We didn't do like a formal vote. Nobody really was against it. And I think you at the same time, you got to trust the return committee that has been doing, they've been for weeks and weeks. They went through all the scenarios possible, and they came up with that one that seems to be the most fair for every team. And I think to go back to the drawing board would have been a long process. And like I said, I think you got to trust what guys are doing. And same thing, the way they presented to us was the best way possible to do it this year. I think we're all in a weird situation, and you got to figure out the best way to do it. And that's what they did. And after we brought it to the team, and nobody had nothing against it. I think it's not the best way. I think if it could be a normal scenario would be better. But, at the end of the day, we got to find a way to get back on the ice and finish the season.
Now, yeah, there's a lot of strange things. And this is not – just because they made this announcement doesn't mean that you go back to training camp, obviously, right away. There's still many things that have to be taken care of before you can even get back to Columbus, get into a training camp setting, and then get to work. But were there any concerns? Were there any main themes that came up amongst your teammates when you talked about this? Any questions that it seemed like a lot of guys had that they just wanted to have answered before they gave their okay to this?
I mean, I think it was always the biggest thing is always the family. You could be away from Hanford for even the first that first round that kind of added that play-in round. Then after all those questions, but those are all things that are hard to really have an answer right now, just because we don't know much about everything's changing so quick that I think we kind of just figure out that was one step in the right direction to return to play if we know the format that we would play in. And after we'll need to figure out, like Gary said, there's still 10 cities that are in the running to receive those playoff rounds, and all those things that we don't know yet. If it's in Columbus, are we going to be able to stay with our family, or we're going to need to go to the hotel? Those are all things that they still need to figure it out. But I think last week was more of they're just figuring out the format and have at least one thing that it's ready to go. If we have the okay from all the government that we can play, then at least this is all figured out, and we know who we're playing, how it would work, and stuff like this. So I think that was a step in the right direction.
I got to tell you, David, with baseball not playing yet, and the NBA, who seemed to have some early momentum as far as figuring out how they were going to get back to play, I was surprised, and I'm very pleasantly surprised that it seems like the National Hockey League is kind of taking the lead in this. I mean, again, you guys have a plan as to how it's going to be when you come back. when you step back and take a look at it as an NHL player, how proud of you or are you of the fact that the union and the league could work together and at least put yourselves in this position ahead of those other leagues right now?
Yeah, I think we did a really good job. I think the union's been working really hard with the NHL of trying to figure out the best way possible to get back to the ice. And like I said, I think we did a really good job of really those conversations are going well, and both sides really want to get back on the ice. And from there, I think we have a good chance of playing this summer and finishing the season.
Why is it so important, in your opinion, to get back on the ice? Because there are some people, I'm not one of them because I'm with you, I want to go back to work, but there are some people that'll say, hey, look, why don't you just forget about this? This season is over, call it quits, and try to get back to work in the fall. Why is it so important for you as players to get back on the ice at some point?
I think we don't want the chance to be not playing for 8 or 9 months, and they're really trying to figure out a way to get back on the ice. And I think the way they're doing it is they put the safety of people working for the teams, the players, the medical staff, the people, the media, all their health in the priority. And I think if we can do this, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't be able to get back on the ice and play in front of TV, obviously, and fans. I think it would be great for hockey to kind of be playing in the summer. I think it's not something we're used to. And, like I said, I think it would just show how much guys are care about the game and they want to play.
You mentioned a few moments ago, family is one of the issues of all of the things that have to be worked through, the testing, the hub cities, as you mentioned, but the family. Are you going to be able to see your family? Now, you're one of those guys that has a family. You have kids. I'm sure the prospect of going into a hotel for 2.5 or 3 months and not being able to see your wife and your kids is not very appealing to you. And many guys in the league are like you. How big of a hurdle do you think that is going to be? Just the, guys wanting to have the opportunity to still have that interaction with their families.
I think it's definitely one of the biggest one, trying to figure out how they can bring the families. Or I mean, everybody's got kids in different age, and school's going to get involved if it goes late in the summer and stuff like this. So I mean, it's definitely a hard question to answer. Obviously, for people like me, players like me that have young kids and stuff like this, it wouldn't be ideal to leave them and go into a hotel for months. But I think they're really that's one thing they're really working, trying to figure out a way to maybe able to bring your family into the hotel and stuff like this, get them tested and get in that little bubble, if I can say that, you can see them, and maybe not every day, but at least be around them a couple times a week or something before testing or stuff like this.
All right, let me ask you this question. You talk about that bubble, and this is why I want to ask you. Let's say that Columbus is a hub city and you're in the Hilton and you look out the window and you see these people walking down into the short north. They're able to go into a restaurant and they're able to grab a bite to eat. They're able to go about their lives freely. And there you are as a player, holed up in a hotel. And again, I don't know all the specifics, and maybe they haven't worked through all this, but to think that you have to stay within that building, or they're going to keep your meals there, however they're going to do that, and you can't even get out and go down the street, go 2 doors down, and have a bite. How do you think that's going to sit with some guys? And let me follow that up by saying, we're talking about maybe late July and early August, so maybe some things are much different between now and then. But under that scenario, do you feel that would be tough?
Definitely. I think it's one of the concern that many players brought up, and they the fact that we would be stuck in hotels and stuff like this. I think we definitely want to get back on the ice and be playing, but at the same time, we're not animal. Well, it's hard to say, but I mean, we don't want to be stuck in a cage and and just be sitting there for a couple months, So I think they're really trying to figure out a way how it would work, and what's the possibilities for the cities to. I mean, even if it was just to be able to get out and secure places, and I don't know how it would work, but I know the NHLs are really trying to figure out a way that guys wouldn't be stuck in the hotel for days without doing anything, not being able to go anywhere. And I think they're trying to find stuff that guys could do on days off or after practices that would be, like I said, whether they keep it secured, or or stuff like this. And obviously not being able to go to restaurants and stuff would be hard if everybody else can go. But at the same time, we understand the fact that we got to make sure everybody, their health stays priority. And, if we can keep everybody else, I think we can get back on the ice pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at it, like if I'm just a regular person and I get a chance to go out and have something to eat or kind of do what I want to do, and I'm not getting tested. I mean, you guys, the way they set it up, and I know the testing's another issue, but you're going to get regularly tested. So, that's one that kind of sticks in my head because I know I've been there with you guys. There are some hotels that we stay at throughout the course of the year where there is nothing to do around the hotel. And like, even if you have no morning skate and you're waiting until a 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock bus, you can, start to go a little bit stir crazy. I can't imagine doing that for 2 or more months.
I know that's one thing, like I said, that they're really looking into trying to figure out a way to not have guys going crazy. I think that's the main concern of many guys, to leave their family first, and not being able to leave the hotel would be something that we're definitely not used to. I don't know I think many guys would oppose to it. So I think they're really trying to figure out something that, like I said, whether there's activities that we can do around the city that, whether the NHL trying to secure some golf or whatever it could be, some things like this that you could get the guys out and do something different than staying in the hotel and going crazy.
Yeah, that would be funny too, because usually when you talk about playing golf at that time of the year, that means that you've been ousted from the playoffs. Nobody wants to talk about playing golf when playoff hockey's going on, but maybe you get the best of both worlds, huh?
Yeah, I mean that's maybe the reason why everybody wants to go back and play in the summer, so they'll be able to play both.
That's a very good point. I like that point. All right. Well, let's move on to the next phase of it, because not only do you know that you're going to be participating in the play-in, but you're also going to be playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs. How much have you talked to your teammates about, the matchup and the excitement? Because, look, when you come back and you playing against the Maple Leafs means that people are going to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets a lot between now and when that play-in series actually starts. Is that exciting for you as a player?
Definitely. I think it's going to be a fun challenge. I think they're so good offensively. So, I mean, I think it's just going to be a really fun series to be part of. And it's such a weird time. And I think it's going to be kind of cool, especially if you can get in the regular playoff after. I mean, playing that play-in series is kind of weird, but I think it's going to be intense, and it's going to be something really, really fun. Playing a big market like Toronto, I think it's definitely going to be talked about, and it's going to be fun to be part of. And I know a lot of guys from Canada are excited about it.
Let me ask you to kind of further that a little bit. Yeah, the excitement about playing against the Maple Leafs, being in the spotlight for, heck, it could be a couple of months leading up to that series. To take it one step further, you mentioned how offensively minded Toronto is. Does any of this seem like last year to you? And I know that you can't, it's not going to be last year. It's going to be a series of its own. But you went into that series against Tampa last year. Everybody talked about their offense. You guys found a way to stifle that offense and outscore them and shut them down. It's going to have to be the same type of a mindset. You have to play the same type of a game this year, don't you?
Definitely. I think Toronto has a lot of offensive guys, and we'll definitely need to shut them down if we want a chance of moving forward. And, like you said, I think last year was kind of the same mindset. They had such a offensive team that it was a focus of us that to play well defensively, and it's going to be the same thing. I think it's kind of the playoff hockey style we play all year round, and we'll just need to bring our A game if we want to go past the Maple Leafs.
And I know that's a hard style of hockey to play. I mean, it's a lot to ask. There's no question about it. And when you guys had your success this year in long spurts, you were playing that way and you were putting in that work. Is it going to be more difficult to get into that mindset and that execution after having 3 months of no games? Or how do you see that layoff as an effect on the kind of team game you have to play?
I mean, the training camp, I think, is going to be really important to make sure everybody's focused and to game shape, and just even like your focus on the ice, your reads and stuff like this. So but it's definitely, it might be harder to play well defensively early. I think you usually see early in the year that a lot of mistakes happen when it comes to playoff hockey. Usually everybody's on their game and everything's tight and playing well defensively. So it's definitely going to be harder to get back on playing well defensively right away as soon as we come back. But I think, like I said, I think training camp's going to be really important to make sure everybody's working on that and making sure your reads are good and stuff like this.
And one thing that you know about John Tortorella from having him here the last 4 years, he knows how to get a team prepared. And this training camp obviously is not going to be like the one that you go through in September to start a regular season. But I know, because he told us 2 weeks into this break, that he had already had different lengths of training camps drawn up. So I'm sure over these 3 months, all he's been thinking about is how he's going to get you guys back in shape.
Yeah, no, I think we expect it. We know how he works, and I think it's going to be good for us to get back into skating and just getting some volume early into training camp, and make sure we're ready and back to game shape. That's the biggest thing. I think it's hard to even as hard as you can run and work out, it's hard to get your game shape, and I think that's why it's so important to have a hard training camp.
All right. As a guy that has been here for quite some time, and you've seen the best of times and the worst of times in this organization, what does it mean to you to be going to the postseason for a fourth straight year, play-in round or not? Some people say, well, this isn't the playoffs. You've got to win that round to get in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. The regular season is over. The Blue Jackets, even after losing a couple of really big free agents last summer, are back playing beyond the regular season. What does that say to you about this organization, where it was, where it is, and where it's going?
I think we're definitely going in the right direction. You can tell just the way everybody kind of goes about their business. I think everybody prepares to be a playoff team every year, and doesn't really matter who's in the lineup and who's not. I think we just come to the rink ready to play, and I think it shows this year, even after losing a couple guys, that we were ready to play most of the nights, and that's why we have a chance to run for the Stanley Cup. I think it's going to be definitely fun. Like you said, I think we had some years that were a little harder, and it's fun for us to get back in the dance again and just having fun. I think the playoff hockey is just so much fun for the players, obviously for the fans too, but for us, that's why we play hockey. It's to play in the playoffs.
And you're looking at a defensive core that should include Seth Jones and Ryan Murray, and a forward group that will include Oliver Bjorkstrand and Cam Atkinson, some guys that you haven't seen in the lineup for quite some time. Guys have been in and out of the lineup. How nice will it be to play it as close as you've been to full strength in quite a while?
I mean, it's going to be nice. I think we lost many guys this year, and it was we stayed afloat for a long time, and it's credit to all the guys that came in and kind of did the job. Some guys were coming from Cleveland, some younger guys had bigger roles, and everybody produced, and we kept the team afloat. And I think it's fun to see everybody, all the big boys coming back, and we'll be ready to go for the playoffs.
You have any idea when they're going to tell you have to return to Columbus from Quebec? Any indications?
I mean, for now, we still haven't heard the official date for stage 2 to start, and obviously, I think a lot of the guys will wait maybe a couple weeks to see if there's what's going to happen with all the government and stuff. If we have a chance to open up training camp early July, and if that kind of comes to plan, I think everybody's going to start coming back. I think right now it's still hard to know if we're going to be able to play. As of right now, I think it's all in the government's hand, and I think most of the guys will be waiting for their okay, or if we feel that there's a good chance of us playing again. And I think as soon as we know that, a lot of guys will be coming back.
Are you going to bring your family back with you? And I ask that because I know some guys have talked about maybe their family just staying at the summer location and not coming back for the couple of weeks. What are your plans?
I think it all depends on how long this goes. I think if it's in the near future, I think there's a good chance they might stay back for a couple weeks and make sure that we're going into training camp and stuff like this. And if it goes a little later in the summer, I think they'll be coming back with me, and we'll probably just end up staying there even after the playoffs and stuff like this. So I think it's all going to depend on what date the training camp starts.
All right, I have one more question for you, and this is the most important question because it's purely selfish on my part. But So when this whole lockout started, I decided I wasn't going to shave. I was just going to, let myself go. And I have gone and got a haircut. Thank goodness. I couldn't take that anymore. And my whole plan was I'll keep whatever kind of a beard I got until I actually go back to work. But now I've got to ask you, you are the master of the beard. When we get back to play, should I shave it like my original plan, or should I have a playoff beard for the first time in my life?
I think you should keep the beard. I think you got to keep it all the way to the end.
All the way to the end.
It would look great. Yeah.
Yeah. It would look gray.
It would look great.
Yeah.
All
David,
the way to September or something. Nice and big.
I'm fine with that. And then, if things work out really well and you win the whole darn thing, then I'll just have to leave it on because you don't mess with good luck, right? So I hope I have it for a long time. David, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all the work that you're doing behind the scenes, because I know you've got a lot of calls, a lot of texts, being that union rep, and I know you enjoy it. I know you like being that guy, but I also know it takes a lot of time from your family, and it's much appreciated. Congratulations to you guys for getting this plan together with the league, and hopefully everything works out perfectly and that we see you back here in Columbus very soon.
Sounds good. I hope to be back soon.
So David Savard approves the beard, and he is the beard master. So I guess maybe I'm stuck with the beard throughout the postseason. As I said, the Blue Jackets win. I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that at all. I want to remind you that Cam Atkinson is hosting a virtual 5K. It's coming up June 4th through the 7th. You need to get signed up by May 31st in order to get your free T-shirt and your free medal. And to get involved, look, you don't have to run the 5K. You don't have to walk it. You can ride a bike. You can rollerblade. You can do whatever you want. You have 3 days to finish it. It's really a chance to raise money for a great cause, a machine at Riverside Hospital that will be able to check the people on the front line, the doctors and the nurses, give them quick coronavirus tests, keep them healthy, which will keep all of us healthy, of course. That's what that's where the funds are going from this. So Cam and his foundation doing a great job. FNF5K.com is where you go to sign up. As I said, sign up by the end of May and you get the extra perks, and then you'll be ready to go for that virtual 5K on June 4th through the 7th. So again, thanks to David Savard for joining me today and telling all of us what he and his teammates talked about and what they went through, and also about speculating a bit on what it will be like when the NHL returns to play, whenever that might be this summer. And as always, thanks to you for tuning in to this edition of CBJin30 presented by Telhio Credit Union. Until next time, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.